That thing. So it is kind of hard to identify. Carol Setterland is a local sculptor, and that's a big piece. You can hardly see you can see the colors a little bit. It's a big piece of redwood on a base it's been sculpted. It really does not translate well over Zoom, but it was a real.
Stand down a little bit so we can see the bottom of it.
Now let's go ahead.
Oh, that's cool.
It's on a base. Yeah,
it just looks like it was floating. Like
it's a kite.
Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started here. We have a number of people on the call. On the Zoom with us already, and I know we're midday. People have busy days. A lot of things going on. So this is going to be our first downtown subcommittee Zoom meeting. And again, it's taking some getting used to. It's a lot different than before, but I also don't want to, in keeping with our tradition, I don't want to keep our meeting too rigid either, but let's go ahead and call our meeting to order. And our recording secretary, do we need to have you take a roll call? Is that what we need to do?
Let the record show that all members are in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and call that to order. And I'm going to read off a statement here that I think we're required to do because of our form of meetings now, but due to the provisions of the governor's executive orders N-25-20 and N-29-20, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act and the order of the health officers of the County of Sonoma to shelter in place to minimize the spread of COVID-19, the downtown subcommittee will be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting using Zoom webinar. Subcommittee members and staff are participating from remote locations and or practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting as noted on the city's website and as noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak during item 3, public comment, or during our public hearing items will be able to do so, will be able to do so by utilizing the raise hand feature on their screen, or by pressing I think it's a *9 on their phone, and then they will be given the ability to address a subcommittee. So those are our ground rules, I suppose. Do we have any announcements today? Other than to welcome everybody back to our meetings. We've had a little bit of an absence, but we do have some very important report outs for you today too. So let's go ahead and zoom into our, our public comments. So if you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please select the raise hand button. If you are dialing in via telephone, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Each speaker has 3 minutes. A countdown timer will appear for the convenience of the speaker and viewers. And please make sure to unmute yourself when you are invited to do so. Your microphone will be muted at the end of that countdown. So we'll turn it over to our recording secretary to go ahead and start that process.
Hi, at this time, I don't see that any hands are raised.
Thank you. For those of you joining us today, please, if you have any comments on items not on today's agenda, now is the opportunity to do so. Okay, we don't have any email or recorded calls either, right?
No, we do not.
Okay, then let's go ahead and move on to our agenda. We'll begin with our permitted events and public art update by Tara Thompson. Tara, take it away.
And Tara, I will unmute you in just one moment. I apologize, this is just taking one more second.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Thompson, the city's arts and culture manager, and I wanted to provide a brief update on permitted events as well as public art projects in the downtown. As you know, events have had to drastically change how they can occur. If they do at all, they are in virtual settings at this point. The city has suspended all special event permits through Labor Day as of today. However, I am working with a team of city staff that make up the special event application review team with representatives from various city departments, including fire, police, parks, transportation, public works, etc., on a recommendation for the rest of 2020, as there's still so much uncertainty about how we may be able to permit those large events. So stay tuned for an update on that in the coming days. And most of the events that were slated to occur this spring and summer have completely canceled for 2020 and are looking forward to 2021. However, there were some events that we're trying to reschedule for a date later in the fall this year. And at this point, those are to be determined. You may have heard that Ironman has released a tentative go forward date for rescheduling both of their May and July events here in Santa Rosa for October 17th. And that is tentative based on a variety of conditions, but should they be able to go forward with that, the city has tentatively approved that date. I think that's it for special events. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll jump into the public art update first, and then maybe any questions I can answer at the end. So for public art, there's a new opportunity that you'll hear a little bit more about when Cadence provides her DAO update. But I wanted to share that the public art program has allocated funding towards the Open and Out call for artists. The Open and Out program is already kind of in effect with a variety of phases meant to allow restaurants and businesses downtown to expand their usable space out into the sidewalk, parking spaces, and potentially the street as well. And a part of that program includes a call for artists. The idea is to create a pool of artists that we can then work with on specific projects that range from streetscape kind of beautification and improvement projects to temporary art installations. We're hoping to see some of those start soon in the next few weeks and continue throughout the summer and into the fall. I wanted to also provide a brief update on the Courthouse Square Public Art Project, Imagine Art in Courthouse Square. This project has been delayed by COVID by about 6 months. So I think when I reported back in February, perhaps, maybe it was the beginning of March, we were on track to have 5 finalist proposals ready to be kind of weighed in on by the community and by our selection panel in springtime. Now that's been pushed back to late summer and early fall. But we are still on track for that project, just about 6 months behind our original timeline. That will put the installation of the artwork around January of 2022, rather than August of 2021 as originally planned. A few other brief updates. We are still working on restoring the Ruth Asawa panels to the fountain in the square with a kind of unknown timeline at this point for that, but we are still working to get that completed, working with the DAO. And we are also working on conservation and maintenance projects on public art pieces throughout the downtown. Most recently, some work was done on the wood fence panels at the downtown library, which are actually a piece of public art, unbeknownst to many. And next up will be the Woman with the Water Jug fountain on 4th Street at Jeju Way. So those are the updates I have for you today, and thank you.
Thank you, Tara. John, Victoria, any questions?
Tori, I just one. Thank you, Councilmember Oliveris. I'm curious about the work on the water bearer from Jeju. What kind of work is being done? Is it mainly plumbing, or has there been some damage?
There is currently no damage, which is great. But the fountain itself, we need to be working with our Public Works team and Parks team on some of the rust issues that are at the base of the fountain, which are a little bit outside of the scope of our art conservators. What they would be focusing on once we can address some of the rusting is the mineral deposits on the stone structure itself, on the stone sculpture itself. They will work to kind of neutralize the water chemistry to make sure that the water deposits, mineral deposits, are kind of less noticeable to the actual sculpture. That's really what they will focus on. But there are some rust issues to be dealt with the grate at the bottom of the fountain.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria.
No questions. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public that have comments or questions on this item?
Chair Oliveros, I don't see that we have any at this time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go on to our next item.
Pardon me.
Let's see, we have, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to let you know, unfortunately, it does not appear that our next presenter, Amy Lyle, has been able to join. So
Okay.
we'll be going to the next item.
Okay, good. Then let's go ahead and move to our downtown action organization.
Really quick, this is one of the hosts. It looks like Supervising Planner Lyle has joined.
Oh,
She just started.
Okay.
She just raised her hand.
Okay, good. Let's go back. If you're ready, Lynn, we can go ahead and start with our downtown station area specific plan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Amy, yes, I'm sorry.
Great. Thank you so much. This is Amy Lyle, Supervising Planner with Planning and Economic Development. Just wanted to give you a brief update today on the downtown station area specific plan. As you know, it's an update of the existing specific plan, and we actually are considering this a full overhaul, removing many barriers to residential development and updating other aspects to really create a greater sense of place and a more multimodal framework for the downtown. And so the last time that we spoke with the council was actually in December of 2019. So since that point, we've been drafting the specific plan and the environmental impact report. And we are going to be releasing both documents next week on the 15th. And so those will both be available on the website. And then that will also kick off a round of public outreach, all of which will be virtual. But we do plan to hold virtual meetings with the preservation districts around the downtown. So we have 4 meetings planned for specific neighborhoods. We are planning to meet with the Downtown Action Organization, Metro Chamber, Disability Rights Center, college students at the JC in Sonoma State. And we will be having 1 meeting held entirely in Spanish. And in addition, we will be going to our standing committees as well. So I hope to come back to this committee once the plan is released and you all have had a chance to review to answer any questions that you might have. We also are going to be speaking at the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. We'll be having a joint Design Review Board, Cultural Heritage Board meeting, Waterways Advisory Committee meeting. So all of that outreach will be going on through the rest of July and into August. And then the remainder of the schedule includes a Planning Commission meeting August 6th, and then again in late September for their final recommendation, and then City Council in early October. We're hoping to maybe push it into late September. We're thinking about power shutoffs and hoping to get through the process before that potential occurs. So that is our schedule at this point. And on the 15th next week, when the documents are released, we do plan to hold a public open house, and that will be virtual, and it will be in the evening. And that information will be publicized through our social media outlets and any place we can later today. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. John, Victoria? Victoria?
Thank you for the update. I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Any members of the public wishing to make comment or have questions on this item?
I don't see that anyone has raised their hand at this time. Hi, were you able to hear me?
Yeah, it looks like
Yes,
we have,
I was able to hear you. Just checking to see if everybody, I think we have a couple of hands now.
yeah, it looks like we have 3 hands raised.
Thank you. Dig, I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, quick question. Have there been any significant changes?
Yeah, I don't think we already heard your question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Were there any significant changes to the plan since it was last presented back in December?
Would you like me to answer these individually?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that, Amy. I want to try to stick to our old habits, which are pretty informal, if we could.
Sounds great. So no significant changes. So we're still on track with that preferred scenario that was presented and accepted by the City Council. There has been quite a bit of research done to offer incentives for housing and other amenities in the downtown, and also a lot of work on historic preservation and how we deal with the transition between downtown and height and then the single story historic areas. But the biggest change that will occur with the plan is really a removal of height restrictions and moving to a floor area ratio, which gives greater flexibility, but there still be some parameters around those transition zones.
Thank you, Amy.
The next person is David Del Santos. If you would like to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. I just wanted to confirm that when the specific plan was going to be officially adopted, is that in October after City Council reviews it, or will it be beyond that?
Yes, so we are hoping that it will occur in one meeting. So we do have 2 meetings planned for the Planning Commission. So the first one in August will be a public hearing on the draft environmental impact report and a review of the plan itself. And then their comments will be incorporated along with the public into the EIR. We will be having a pause to be able to respond to all the comments we receive on the environmental document. And then a final EIR will be produced. And so that the final plan and the final EIR encompassing all the comments we receive over the next couple of months will then be presented to the Planning Commission once again for their formal recommendation to the City Council. So at that point, the City Council will be asked to review and adopt, and we hope it could occur in one meeting, but could be potentially 2 meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
The next individual is Eric Frazier. Eric, I've allowed you to unmute yourself. Mr. Frazier?
Go. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There was a little lag time in getting that unmute notification. Thank you very much. The question I had for you is about the communication and outreach. So in this new Zoom reality that we're in, I've heard a lot of comments from the community that they're not able to access Zoom or participate because of the lack of internet or other technology issues. So the question is, when it comes to this plan, as well as other calls for the public to get involved, what steps are being taken to augment just this access, by the internet that apparently a lot of people are unable to participate?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. And it's really been a global issue that we've been looking at with all of our outreach through the entire department. And at this point, we have to remain consistent with the health order and not hold opportunities for large amounts of people to gather. So we have moved to the Zoom platform, which does allow for people to call in by phone. We also plan on recording our public open house that will occur on the 15th and posting that to the website. If people aren't able to attend, they can view after. And we are trying to expand our outreach opportunities beyond what was in our original plan due to the virtual environment, and are looking for standing meetings or other organizations that want to review the plan and coming to those meetings specifically. We are also working with our Citizens Advisory Committee meeting to do some outreach through radio and print media, and but are really open to any ideas that you would have that would help us create a more robust outreach opportunity. We are trying to do absolutely everything we can, considering the remote environment that we're required to function within.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think those are all the hands we have.
Yes, that's correct.
Through the
Thank
chair, Mr.
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
is it all right if I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Ms. Lyle, I was wondering if we could go back to the downtown closure of 4th Street and see if we have any updates around timing or considerations that are going into that.
So I don't have any updates from the perspective of the downtown plan. I will say that we are hoping to do some types of sandwich boards or some kind of outreach in the downtown as people do start to enjoy the street closure with the restaurants as far as the outreach component. As far as the policy component, there will be some encouragement and openness and flexibility in the plan to allow that type of structure to facilitate itself in the future. But I don't have any specific updates on the closure itself. Does that answer your question, or did you have something more specific in mind?
You know what? I apologize. I meant to direct that question at Tara, and so I apologize for asking you that out of the blue. But thank you for doing your best anyway. I'm always impressed. Appreciate it.
Tara, you're able to unmute yourself?
Yes, hi. I can try to answer that. I think Cadence, when she provides her DAO update, was going to bring this up, and I'm happy to share briefly, and we can perhaps revisit when that item comes up on the agenda. But we are interested in looking for input from the committee members, from the council members today on the timing for the open and out street closure component of 4th Street. As you know, the county is now on day 1 of the state watch list, and there are some concerns about potentially having to roll back restrictions that would affect people's kind of comfort level with coming downtown, as well as what restaurant capacity there may be at that time. And so we are interested in discussing that today, getting a sense from the committee members as well as
grateful to hear that. I didn't know that under 4.3 that was going to be a topic, so I'll hold the rest of my questions for that. Thank you so much for putting up with me.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and move on to 4.3, the DAO. Cadence, please.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see a few of you. Thank you very much for having the meeting today. I think it's great that we're all getting together. I also want to just take a quick moment to thank all of the city staff who've been working really hard on getting downtown reopened. I think pretty much every department has had a hand in trying to move this plan forward. And on behalf of all of our business owners, we're very grateful for your creativity and hard work to support our businesses in this kind of crazy time. A quick update before we talk to what everyone is interested in hearing about today. Our Street Plus team is still operating downtown. They do have a new manager though. So Danielle, who many of you know, has taken over the manager position. We are fully staffed outside of her though. So they are working hard, helping us get ready for open and out in whatever form that ends up taking. And spent a lot of time, as you can imagine, in the last month or so on graffiti abatement downtown, and we're really grateful for their efforts. So as Tara mentioned, you know, we have a group of people who are meeting regularly and working regularly on the open and out program that the city has kind of established to create a pedestrian zone downtown to increase foot traffic and to most importantly create a safe social distancing destination. So to provide our community with a place where they can eat, where they can potentially shop, and they can do it in the safest way possible. Part of that for us as well is making sure that there is ample curbside pickup parking. Right now, there are a number of spots downtown. We're planning, I don't know how many are currently downtown, but the plan that the parking department helped us put together has somewhere between 25 and 30 spots. So really trying to kind of meet people where they are, both in the parking with our parking changes, as well as creating better outdoor dining opportunities. So I think I can provide a couple more updates, and then it would be helpful to get feedback on the specific closures of 4th Street. So I think we all know that portions of 4th Street were scheduled to be closed. We've had a few delays because of protests and COVID, and we're now on target to potentially close on Friday. However, with the new, with our being day 1 on the watch list, would like some feedback as to whether or not that should change. If we don't move forward with the closures on Friday, there are still some pieces we can move forward with. We will be replanting all of our downtown pots on Friday. I think most people have seen that they're no longer that lovely shade of terracotta, and they're now very crisp, clean black. We're organizing volunteers to come down and do a little socially distanced planting event on Friday at 10:30 if anyone wants to join. So the planting project will move forward regardless of whether or not the closures are happening. We do have a volunteer group who has very generously and graciously put together some parklet barriers for our businesses on 4th Street. Belly received theirs yesterday, and we have 6 others who will be getting their barriers installed on Sunday afternoon. They had been planning to wait until the streets were closed to bring their larger team in. It's a church group with volunteers, mostly high school and college students. So they wanted to come in after the streets were closed to make the barriers. I have not spoken to them about the potential of the barriers not being installed. So don't know if that would change their decision to do the work on Sunday or not. And then additionally, we have ordered a large number of new tables and chairs. We would not be able to put all of those out if the road closures didn't happen, but we could still put some out on Courthouse Square and possibly some sidewalk locations up and down 4th Street. But again, it wouldn't be to the extent that we had discussed doing originally with street closures. We have some other beautification projects underway. Lighting at JG Way, which is moving forward, hopefully in the next couple weeks. And then, of course, the kind of largest and most significant portion of the project is the art piece, which Tara mentioned, but we have, Creative Sonoma has invested $60,000 in the Open and Out program for us to, as Tara said, implement some kind of creative beautifications to infrastructure, temporary installations, and community engagement pieces. The Art and Public Places Committee also invested an additional $40,000 into that, which, Tara, you can correct me, but that had already been allocated for temporary art in Courthouse Square leading up to the installation in January 2022.
2022, yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
So we opened that call to artists about a little over a week ago. And so those projects can still they're all in the planning stages at this point. We have not selected any artists or any specific projects, but that work will continue to move forward even if the closures do not. I will say that, obviously public health is first and foremost. Our businesses are very eager to try and operate however they can. So if we end up having to close indoor dining, this will be an important avenue for them to be able to have an expanded footprint into the street. We can still try to support them by potentially adding a couple tables and chairs throughout downtown, but it won't give them that same increased square footage that we were really going for when the program was originally imagined. the general feeling there is that if we do end up rolling back, this would be helpful. But again, public health is the first concern. So I think that's kind of just a brief overview, and would turn to you now for either questions or clarifications or feedback on whether or not we should move forward with the closures as planned on Friday, or if it would be prudent to delay those and wait longer.
So Case, that's the specific information that you need from the committee at this point?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, I wanted to clarify what you just stated. Then is the input that you want now from the subcommittee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, John, Victoria.
Candace, could you do me a favor and I lost part of what you were looking for as far as the question, what you were looking for input on?
Sure. So the question now, with essentially arising as a result of being on day one of the watch list, do we move forward as planned with partial road closures on Friday? Or do we delay road closures to either a determined or an unknown date in the future when it's a little more certain that we're moving toward a lower risk period?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thanks for repeating that. I think it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this position of kind of in the dark, if you will, for such a long period of time. We never know what's going to happen from day to day and how the orders are going to come down, whether they are coming from the county or the state. It does put us at a bit of a disadvantage. I think just personally, what I would hate to do, I would prefer to have a little more surety. Not sure what the merchants would like. Do you have any finger on the pulse of the restaurants as far as what they might prefer? My first inclination is to wait until we have a little more surety, but they may be willing to take that risk and go ahead and move forward with preparations, knowing that that it could all be reversed depending on what might come down from the state. So any sense of what the merchants or the restaurateurs are feeling at this point?
Yeah, I think that given that it's likely that indoor dining will be no longer allowed in the next couple days, many of them are looking for this opportunity to be able to serve people outdoors. I think it remains very important to them to have curbside pickup, which is a priority for this program as well. But there is still the public health concern, right? They don't want to be risking their staff. They also don't want to be open if there's no appetite for people to be coming downtown. So it's a bit, it is this kind of very murky area where I think there's an appetite to move forward, but if we as a county are moving backward, I think it's understood that it might not be practical.
So the kind of what the biggest piece of this would be the actual closure of the street. Is that correct? Is that the part that is? So I'm trying to think of. So let's say they prepare themselves for the closure, and then the state steps in and they kind of make that closure less valid or less effective because of the rules and regulations. Is it the street closure itself? Is that kind of the more problematic piece, or is it prepping the parklets in front of their restaurants that tends to be a concern as far as them going through a certain effort and then having to reverse that or choosing to reverse it? Is it the closure or the parklets that seems to be the most problematic if the state were to come down on us?
I think it's the closure itself, because that presents some other logistical challenges, which maybe Tara would want to speak to. We are hoping that most of our businesses can still have parklet spaces set up. It'd be a bit of a shift because they've all been waiting for the road closures to happen in order to be really fully begin their outdoor dining. Those who are having parklets installed would need to go through an encroachment permit process to be able to operate those if the closures don't move forward. And we've kind of been having them hold off on that for the time being. But we'd have to push that forward if the closures do happen, and not all of them necessarily have the capability to install a parklet at this point. So it would be, could present a bit of a challenge for some of the restaurants trying to reopen. But Gabe and his team have been pretty flexible so far as parklet boundaries. So it's not, those could still potentially happen even if the road closures don't. It just makes it a little bit more complicated for the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
John, I think before I turn to you, I wanted to take a quick pause and check in with staff to see what other discussions we've had internally or the considerations that we need to be aware of today in helping to give some direction. So I don't know which of our staff members are available to speak on this topic at the moment.
Good point.
Hi, this is Tara again. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in. I can't see who else is on the call, but I can share that in terms of city staff capacity to support the closure, we are ready to go for this Friday. But the concern that I think is now the issue, given our current situation, is the closure, because it was a kind of a long-term temporary closure of 4th Street, kind of an ongoing closure. Each end of the street will be closed with water barricades. And so they are not the type of barricades that are easily picked up and moved out of the way. And so the concern would be, should we set them up on Friday, then have to bring them down again a few days later and then put them up again? It just becomes more of an operational issue for us to support that kind of flexibility. Unfortunately, it's just harder to be flexible with that kind of a road closure setup. I think that there's just an uncertainty as to what will be the best and safest thing to do, given our current kind of spike in cases and certain rollback of restrictions. And just to clarify a couple things with the parklets, parklets and the use of sidewalks are still currently available and potentially could be, even if indoor dining is rolled back or restricted again. And those can be dealt with separately outside of the road closure process. And so I think if that's the direction that we go, Cadence and I would be working with the businesses interested in expanding their space on those two other alternatives rather than using the closed street itself.
Thank you, Tara. Anybody else from staff have any comments on this item?
Yeah, this is Raisa. And the one thing I would add is that in the studies that we're seeing in terms of making sure that people come out or want to be feel like they're in a safe environment, it really is predicated on how we're doing within the health orders and how we're doing with cases. So we have been discussing the fact that we would be or now are on a watch list. And so that has been a concern. Depending on what council directive is, again, sorry, I stepped away, so I'm not sure if someone said this already, but there are plenty of things we can do if we delay to continue to put things out. So the art, et cetera. And then as Tara just mentioned, the sidewalk seating and such what. But the question is it the right thing to do if we don't have sort of the enough people who would feel safe using it to close down the streets versus delaying just a little bit. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Victoria?
I have a question. I do have some thoughts on it, but first I want to clarify, and maybe Cadence or Raisa or Raphael can help me understand this, which is the question is based on assumption. So the assumption is that we're gonna They call like how you deal with the pandemic, like the hammer and then the dance. And so the hammer, we know what the hammer is. And now we're in the dance, like go a little bit this way, a little bit that way, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And so my assumption there is that we're gonna have fluctuations for the foreseeable future until we achieve herd immunity or a vaccination, which is gonna be a long time. And so what I'm trying to understand here is the appetite that the business community has, the restaurateurs, the retailers have for us closing down 4th Street and potentially leaving it closed, and just understanding that we're going to be in a long-term dance. There's going to be a week or a month or 2 months where it's good for people and it's really helpful for them to be outside. And there's going to be times when people aren't going to be willing to come downtown, but that the businesses will hopefully be open for curbside pickup or whatever, more scaled back types of commerce. And rather than, because what I'm hearing the assumption be that if we close things down under the health order, that we're actually going to reopen the street. And I'm not sure that going back and forth when we're going to be trying to be nimble makes all that much sense. And seeing if there's appetite amongst the business community just to set it and let it go and understand that there's going to be fluctuations, and is that okay? I don't know how that works for the community.
Yeah, I'll share. It's a very valid question. Our restaurateurs, all of our restaurants along 4th Street are planning to take advantage of this. Individually, they might change their plans if the health order changes, if further restrictions are put into play. But there's definitely an appetite from our restaurants to move forward with this. Some of our retailers are still a little bit skeptical. Most of them are on board. Most of them are excited about the potential of foot traffic coming downtown, especially since we're still really trying to accommodate that curbside pickup piece. But again, they might be. I think it's such a hard thing to understand, because this is not this specific situation where we might be seeing ebbs and flows. And would they prefer to have the street opened or closed, given that we might be moving in and out of restrictions? That has not been posed to them yet. We've been looking at it more from a open or closed as we move forward and through the health orders. So I can just share that for the most part, they are on board and they would like to see the streets closed to give them increased capacity, but they also understand that the appetite for that from the community could shift.
So to that end, would I know you say you haven't asked them this question, but I do really think that we're not going to have it's not going to be an open or closed thing. I mean, it's going to, unless we get a vaccine or unless we have a terrible spike, it's going to be somewhere in the middle range for a long time.
Right.
So would restaurants feel comfortable leaving their parklets open if, to maintain the space and so forth, and then using the, and I don't know if Kim Nadeau is on the call, I'm assuming she is, and then using the space on 5th Street for curbside pickup if we left 4th Street closed? And does that pose any additional problems?
So I think we have a couple options. We can move forward with what they've shared so far, or I can go back and ask again what their preference would be given the potential changes we're seeing, and kind of setting a new landscape of, we're hopeful going into this thinking that this would be kind of our slow shift back to our old normal. We now are, given the state of really the whole world, the whole country, that this is going to be a long-term shift for us, where it's not going to be just back to open, and see if they're interested in if they feel like we need to stick with what's happening now and keep the roads closed and focus on curbside, or if they still want to move forward with outdoor dining.
Right. I mean, my concern is this, is that we've been closed now almost 4 months, and it's taken us, I mean, the first couple of months we couldn't have done this, but then but this idea came up pretty early on, and it's taken this long to be able to implement. And that by the time, it won't take as long to implement because a lot of the groundwork has been done, but by the time that folks are ready to come out again, it'll be more difficult. Whereas if the infrastructure is in place, it can act as a transitional space. And if people are still coming downtown, I would so much rather them eat outside in a socially distanced, safe space and start to enjoy the public space. I know that there's a risk associated with it, but I tend toward closing it and allowing for social distancing, and then maintaining a strong curbside ability on 3rd and 5th Street and on the side streets. And then understanding that this is going to be, we're going to weather a whole lot of storms in here. But I need to, I can leave those statements here, but I want to make sure that we're nimble and responsive to the business community if that doesn't work.
John, do you have another comment?
I do. Thank you. It's kind of a question. I agree with the vice mayor about wanting to move forward. What I'm wondering is, if we don't ascertain what the kind of a final decision from our restaurateurs and our retailers about their willingness to move forward with making assumptions about the state, what the state might do, what would be what does staff see as harm in one more week of information gathering, as far as basically saying, Dan, the torpedo's full speed ahead, let's close the street and start and start behaving as though it's going to be closed for quite a while, and just move forward on Friday. Is there, other than there's clearly a loss of income with some of the businesses if we wait one more week, but if we don't wait and gather that information about their willingness to participate, we could end up with a very small showing of businesses open on 4th Street, which might be worse than not doing it, than waiting a week and getting kind of a commitment from them, if you will, on what they would be willing to do as far as moving forward. I'm without having a sense of what they want to do realistically and in real time, I'm concerned about making the decision for them. I guess that's kind of where I'm coming down.
My sense from Cadence is that it sounds like there's a willingness for them to move forward. Am I wrong, Cadence?
No, you're correct. Right now, all of our restaurants are planning to participate, which would be expanded dining onto 4th Street and likely into parking spaces, if not the street itself. Now, would their decision change if we all of a sudden had 3 days onto the watch list? That's what I don't know the answer to. So I can go back to our restaurants and ask that, and kind of ideally get their commitment to stick with the program moving forward. But, we do know that we have a few who won't be able to do anything if the street closures don't move forward, because they won't have a large enough space that would justify their operations.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, I mean, I think you're going to be able to get some direction from us today, but then again, if you wanted to kind of check back in with them, I think you'll have enough information to work with staff to make it happen. My inclination is to make it happen, but it's not just a matter of opening or closing the street. It's what happens. There's going to be a lot of work that's going to go into making this successful. You can't just close the street and then just hope that everything's going to work out. We're still going to have to, I mean, clearly all the restaurants and we already have guidelines in place on what we expect from the restaurants and what we expect from our patrons as well. And what I'm getting at is also that enforcement effort is who's going to be watching for that downtown too. And I don't know what role our Streets Plus folks will be playing and what role our downtown enforcement team will be playing, because we also need to make sure that people that are coming downtown to enjoy it are adhering to the guidelines, and that people and that the public knows that the guidelines are being enforced in the downtown. Therefore, yes, you are safer coming down because they are being enforced. We're not just ignoring people, even just with a basic mask wearing, for example. So there's work that's going to be done to make it successful. It's not just a matter of just doing it and then see what happens. So those are my thoughts. But I also want to move into some public comments. I'm sure there's other input and insights from those that are on the call with us today. So let's move into that. So we'll have our recording secretary go ahead and open up our public comment.
And there is one hand raised at this time. That is Bernard Schwartz. Mr. Schwartz, I have allowed you to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Bernie.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm a retailer, not a restaurateur, and probably the restaurants have more of an existential challenge right now, although retailers also are looking at big challenges. And I have to admit, equal amounts of hope and skepticism. Basically, I'm really hopeful that this is going to work, but it seems like when we start our marketing campaign to make this an exciting destination when the street closure takes place, that is going to be in tension with the current COVID news that is front page every day. And so Raisa was indicating that maybe a slight delay wouldn't hurt because in the meantime, other improvements like art and tables and furniture could take place, so that if we opened in a week or even two, it would be a more dramatic opening. The downtown would look dramatically different. I know that there's challenges in terms of installing the parklets, but that would be my feeling, which would be waiting a little bit to get out of the COVID news would allow the downtown to start their marketing campaign and really try to invite people to come down. It would be a shame to close the street when everybody's afraid to go out again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. Do I have other comments from those that are on a call with us?
Chair, I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Boy, I've never seen this group be so shy when we're meeting live. Yeah.
That's Zoom for you.
I know. Okay, so committee, what direction do we want to head here?
I have a question.
Yes.
Unless Victoria, you want to go?
No, I think we should just like have a dialogue here and try to work it out.
Excellent. So how quickly, Candace, could we ascertain the kind of the feeling out there of our restaurants and our retailers on 4th Street? How quickly could you determine how they're leaning?
I could do some outreach this afternoon and try to touch base with all of our restaurants. As Bernie said, the situation's a little bit different for our retailers. Not as many of them are interested in moving into the street. So I think getting the feel from the restaurants will kind of set the tone here, and I can ask them, I guess it would be a number of questions trying to figure out if the situation continues to, it's a tough question to ask because I'd kind of have to just say, no matter what the situation is, what would you like to do? And
yeah,
given that we don't have a crystal ball here, it'll be a little hard for them to commit to anything, because if it does get worse, I would imagine many of them will close. But we're all hoping that's not going to be the case. So
right.
I can have some more conversation this afternoon, and I ideally get enough feedback that could help us make a decision if we're unsure.
Well, I'll just jump in. I do have I could go either way. I really have I appreciate Ernesto's optimism, and also we gotta bite the bullet and kind of move. And there are merchants that are ready to go and want to move forward, and I respect that. And not knowing, kind of, I have a hard time making a decision for them. I think that's really, they know their business, they know what they're hoping to do or what they're planning to do without knowing what the state is going to do. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks, you know, let's just go for it. But when Bernie was talking about that extra time could also give an opportunity to be even more ready for when they kind of you know, cut that ribbon, if you will. So I could see myself going in one direction or the other, and that's why I kind of keep going back to wishing I had more input, more current input from those that are going to be faced with actually making the decision for their own businesses. So I'm split.
Victoria, you have another comment?
Yeah, I'm with John in that it is really hard to make this decision. You know, I tend toward again the optimism of Ernesto and also, you know, we just gotta bite the bullet. The one challenge that I have with it I have a couple. One is that I want to be respectful of the merchants and make sure that we don't put them in a bind here. And the other is the public health bit where, you know, it was brought up that we can't just close the street and hope all works out in terms of that we have to have a marketing campaign. And going into this meeting and hoping to have this conversation, I was thinking actually, you know, the last thing that sounds like a good idea is a marketing campaign urging people to congregate in one place downtown, that hopefully people will be coming downtown because they want to come downtown, and this will allow them to do so safely. But the excitement that this should be in normal circumstances greeted with would be, in my opinion, perhaps a little foolhardy. So I'm torn on this. I'm interested to hear what Ernesto has to say.
Well, again, I think that I agree that we don't want to be making the decision for the restaurateurs. I think they should pretty much, we've already agreed as a community, this is something that we want to do in our downtown. They've agreed to it. Now it's a matter of when. So I think I'd want to put them in the driver's seat as far as making that happen with Cadence's direction, as far as reaching out to them again. That's great. And because people will have a choice. They have a choice as to whether or not they want to come downtown to enjoy some of the things that we're going to offer them. They will have that choice. And if they choose to come down, we want them to have a good experience downtown, because if they chose to come down, we want them to come back. We don't want them to come in and say, well, hey, I'm not coming back down here because this is chaos. So I think we all have a lot of work to do again. Once we do make that decision, is that we want people to be able to have that choice, to be able to come downtown to enjoy it. And then also we want to make sure that they feel safe to come back and continue to enjoy it, and to spread the word to others that, hey, this was a good experience for me. But again, we have to manage that. But I agree, though, that it's difficult for us three to make that decision for the merchants, because they're the ones that are going to be doing it. We've already agreed that we will support this effort as a city and as a community. So how do we make that happen? And I think Caden's reaching back out to them today and working with staff to make that final decision as to whether or not they want to make it happen by Friday, or if they want to give it another week to have some of the other amenities go in. That's okay with me too. So again, I don't know that we want that this committee to say, yeah, absolutely open on Friday, or no, you will not open on Friday. I think we need to have our businesses that are downtown who are going to be impacted and benefit from this too, to be a part of that effort. And again, also, I want to remind people, again, it goes back to ensuring that people do come down, that everybody is following the guidelines, that our restaurants and our citizens that are coming down to enjoy this.
So can I ask for a little bit of clarification as I'm doing the outreach? Are we asking them if they would like to delay by a week or two, or are we asking what their plans would be if we were to close and be 3 days into the watch list?
Yeah, I think the conversation is going to revolve around the watch list. That's new to us now. It's here now. So is their desire to start up on Friday, does that still exist? Or based on the watch list, are they wanting to watch it as well and wait and let some of the other elements happen in the downtown as well? I'm not sure if that's clear enough, Cadence, but again, I want to have them and you work with them to figure out what's going to be best for them. I think we as a city, I think we're ready to make it happen, whatever direction they decide to go.
Okay, I'm happy to, I'm comfortable having that conversation, and then letting them know that there would be, if they decide not to move, if their preference is not to close on Friday, that we don't have a set date in mind. It would be waiting until hopefully things clear up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Cadence, there's one other question. Is it okay if I ask a question, Ernesto?
Absolutely.
Cadence, there's one other question that I'd like to, that I think would be helpful in answering this, which is, would the merchants be, you know, aside from the watch list, that when they open, do they understand and are they open to living with the reality that we're probably going to be at different phases of this, and are they okay to set this up and have the flow of whether there's indoor or outdoor or only curbside, have that sort of, are they okay to go with that flow, understanding that that's largely going to be outside of our local control, and that what we can do is what we're ready to do, which is the infrastructure part for them, but that it doesn't come up and come down easily, and that it would be something that we'd all kind of have to endure. Well, they would really have to endure, and we will try to support.
Right. Okay.
Is that question clear enough for you?
I think it is, and I will work on reaching out to everyone this afternoon, and we can, I can follow back up with the committee tomorrow, I think, if you're all comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'll check in with staff again. Staff, is there any other input that you have in moving this forward?
In terms of, hi, this is Tara Thompson. In terms of the logistics of it, I will just work with Cadence to know when we want to do it. I mean, right now, city staff are all prepared to do the closure Friday morning, and I've let a few folks know that I will confirm that, given things change so quickly with current health orders. So really, it's just a matter of communicating, and she and I can work together to make sure we're notifying everyone of that decision.
Thank you. And you will notify the committee, not for the sake of conversation, just to let us know what direction was decided.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
And Mayor, can I ask a question for clarification?
Here. Go ahead, John.
So
Go ahead,
just going back to the past. And it is like following a bouncing ball, and quite frankly, I excuse my ignorance on this, but as far as the most recent orders that's the boom that's being lowered on the cities, where it's being lowered on the cities, I know that indoor dining is out. Is any occupation of an inside space in retail, is that also out, or are they allowing facial coverings and social distancing in standard retail environments? Or is that verboten to have, even to go inside a building at this point? With those where they have actually lowered the boom, I've lost track of what this most recent boom looks like. Is there? Go ahead.
I actually don't know all the specifics. I just know that should Sonoma County remain on the watch list for 3 days, then certain restrictions will be put back into effect. And that could include a list of variety of things. And number one on that list was to eliminate the option for indoor dining, and right. That bars, restaurants, taverns, bars, winery, tasting rooms, all things indoors that were right. previously allowed would be restricted, but I don't know the specifics, and I don't know if all of them are enacted if needed, or if just some of them.
Okay, because I think I do remember that it seems to be mainly those that are in the business of selling food and drink. So I was just curious if we had any clarity to allow our other merchants to be able to be open, and if we were indeed to delay the closure, of course it would be a benefit to our standard retailers, and if we close, it would allow our restaurants to function. So it's really it's a tough one. I look forward to your survey to see what Candace, to see what the final is, kind of, if you will.
Councilmember Sawyer, this is Marketing Outreach Coordinator Kevin King.
Hey, Kevin.
So I have a little bit of an answer for you for what stays open on several consecutive, if there's on the monitoring list for 3 consecutive days. It's mostly dine-in restaurants, wineries, tasting rooms, movie theaters, personal care services. Retail is not on that list according to the California Roadmap website.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Okay, I think we have what we need on this item. So without any further comment, we'll go ahead and move on to the Railroad Square Association Community Benefit District. Rafael.
Tardes a todos. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, good to hear everyone, and good afternoon, Vice Mayor Fleming, City Council Member Olivares, City Council Member Sawyer. I will be brief on my quick update since we're watching the time closely. So anyway, yeah, I was coming into the meeting with a lot of excitement, especially around the Open and Out program. We've been working great with the downtown businesses as well as the DAO, but as the county adds us to the state watch list, it is concerning. So report from Railroad Square is that the AC Marriott will be opening this month. So that's, again, exciting news as well as concerning news, given the potential update to the health order. But again, I'm finding out that people remain very optimistic, resilient, and that's what we have been learning over the past several years, and particularly after the fire. So kudos to all the business owners, restaurant owners. They get up every day, they go out there, and they're creative. They're very creative, but we also need to take in part the work that is going in with partnerships. Of course, us being one of them. Another update regarding Railroad Square is that the association, the association formed the board. So we have an official board, and they have met during the month of April, May, and June. So the meetings have been great. We have a president, and that is Mike Montague, who is the owner of TVAX, and Hugh Futrell is the treasurer for the board. Other updates is that the Community Benefit District has now hired a security company, First Security, and they're doing the night patrols on a daily basis. Lagar Restaurant has also opened up their urban alley space for dining. And again, let's see what happens in the next couple of days or so. Grossman's has also opened their restaurant that, if you recall, is right inside the historic Hotel La Rose, and they also are providing outside dining. So they fenced off a little area there and added some fake grass and have some very nice tables and such. So people are, gathering, following, of course, social distancing protocols, as well as face covering, obviously when they're not eating. The visitor center has remained closed, unfortunately, for the last 3 months, but we hope to have it open sometime in the fall or so. And we're also seeing train riders starting to show up in groups. Most businesses have remained open, but are still working on their abbreviated hours from like 11 to 4, 5 o'clock. And there was a very important meeting that both the DAO and the Railroad Square CBD or association held with the mayor and city officials back in June to address the encampment that was under the freeway. And there has been a solution for the time being, and many of those folks who were at that encampment have been reallocated. So again, Railroad Square is open for business. We're just waiting to see what will happen, but we're very excited that the CBD again was created. The meetings are taking place, and we're looking forward and remaining optimistic to have a wonderful Railroad Square district coming soon this fall.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Victoria or John, questions? John?
No, thanks, Ernesto, and appreciate the report. It's good to hear some good news.
Yes, indeed. Do we have any hands raised for this item?
Chair, we do not have any hands raised at this time.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to 4.5 with our parking program update. Kim.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great for us to all be meeting again. As you know, we resumed paid parking on July 1st, and it's gone pretty smoothly, I think. We are seeing pretty about 30% drop in occupancy at the meters. We have got a new validation promotion that's going on also in alignment with the resumption of paid parking. So we really want to continue to work to get the word out about this one-time free validated parking session for up to $3.15 in value. You use the validation code PARK-SR with the Passport Parking app, and that will be applied to your parking session at a parking meter. So I've been working with Adrienne and the outreach team. They've been a great help in using social media platforms. We've got some radio ads running and also online Press Democrat digital ads. So we're working to get the word out. And we also have some flyers with information about parking downtown that I brought over to the chamber office so that merchants could have those available. So we're really working hard to get the word out about the various free parking options that have been added. So that's the first hour free in all of the garages. The garages are free after 5 o'clock every day, and they're free all day on Saturday and Sunday. And then the value zone parking meter rates were dropped from $1 an hour to 75 cents an hour. So that's all in place. We're also, our new equipment for the garages is being manufactured now. So we're hoping that that will be beginning to be installed. August might be optimistic. September is probably more realistic. And we've added a new feature to the equipment. We've added a sensor that will be on as you enter the garage. Instead of right now, you have to push a button to receive your ticket if you don't have a permit. And this will allow you to wave your hand in front of a sensor so that you won't have to touch a button. So we're kind of excited that we've got that new option. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about enforcement. Our enforcement staff has been resumed. They are writing warnings. We're really wanting to take time to educate people that paid parking is back. So they're issuing warnings for folks right now. They are writing tickets for safety related issues. And they're also patrolling residential permit zones as we're getting requests from residents who want to see us there. But I did want to assure you that they're writing like 95% warnings right now. So there's people maybe seeing something on their windshield. Oh, and we're also attaching that flyer that we have to the warnings so that people are getting information about their various parking options when they get that. So that's another way we're trying to get the word out. And that I'll stop there because I know we're running long here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Victoria, John?
No questions, just a comment. I just wanted to thank you, Kim, for allowing your department to act as a partner downtown as opposed to the darker side of parking. I know you're trying very, very hard to do what you can, not only to make the department function, but also to act as that partner, because you are. I mean, that your department is a partner in our economic health of the downtown, and maintaining our structures and safety and maintenance and operation of the structures. So thank you for doing the best that you can to be throwing softballs as opposed to using a bat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Do we have any hands raised on this item?
Chair, we do not have any hands raised. And additionally, I wanted to let you know that, for the last 3 items, the individuals who would have been presenting are not available.
So for the last 3 items, we do not have anybody available for those?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we don't have reports then for the last 3 items, but do we have any public comment on any of those 3 items? If you want to comment on public safety, maintenance, or housing community services, please go ahead and raise your hand. We'll give you a couple seconds here.
Yes, we do have an individual. One moment.
Okay.
And Gig, please feel free to unmute yourself. Mr. Hightower, or?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, on public safety, just a quick report about Juilliard Park. Our active neighborhood watch people are doing it as always, and everything is looking really beautiful. We've got no homeless encampments. We've got no graffiti. We've got no drug dealers. We've got no prostitutes. But we do have a lot of people walking dogs, riding bicycles, bringing their children, resting on the lawn. It's beautiful. It's all good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Gig. Any other comments?
I don't see any additional hands as of this time.
Thank you very much. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This was a good little bit of a recap and catch up. We have not met for quite a while. My intent is to get us back on schedule, especially now into the summer season. So we will continue to have our meetings working with staff. If you have any specific agenda items or issues that you want raised during this committee that pertain to our downtown, please don't hesitate to send them our way so that we can see about working and getting those into the agenda. So any other comments from Vice Mayor or John?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, we're good. Thank you all and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you.